rank the Eagles players from top to bottom, overall talent, what they've achieved both this year and previously in their career. Darius Slay and Steven Nelson are two of their top 12 players, their top dozen players, offense and defense combined. Let them make plays. If they're playmakers, let them make plays.
That I've been impressed by. I think, Nick and Jalen Hurts having those behind the scenes meetings on Fridays are really important. I think Nick's figuring it out. And I think this is what Jeffrey Lurie saw in him. He saw the potential there. He just had to figure it out. And I think the last 2 weeks have been extremely encouraging.
All right, the countdown is on to Eagles Broncos on Sunday. Late afternoon window for us here. For these guys, it's going to be a 1 o'clock kickoff because they're going to be out there. Well, a 2 o'clock kickoff, I guess.
2:25, right? Yeah, the rare 2:25 kickoff, I think.
Rocky Mountain time that both John McMullen, my partner.
I haven't thought it through, to be honest with you. I'm not there yet. I just checked into a flight, and I've got 2 middle seats.
Uh-oh. Oh. Oof.
And then I saw the stateside vodka ad, and I'm like, John, you got to bring me some of that.
Yeah.
Now, wait a minute. I know you're a big guy, Mike, but 2 middle seats? Do you actually get 2 seats on the plane?
No, he means
no, I got a connecting, and then so I'm flying into Chicago, and then I'm flying to Denver. Because you got to get up to get down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
Anyway, good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Mike Kaye. And I want to say NJ.com. I want to get that off the bat because I know that does a great job with our other buddy, Chris Franklin. Is Chris on the same flight, by the way? Let's get all the logistical talk.
So typically we do fly together, but we figured later in the season there might be different press conference stuff. And I've never been to Denver. I've got a lot of friends there, so I wanted to check it out a little bit. So we're on separate flights, but I'm actually staying a little bit later in Denver, and he's gonna kind of make this a quicker trip. So,
all right,
yeah. All right. Speaking of press conferences, I didn't ask John this, so I'll ask you both at the same time. Yesterday, some players made available, and I give the Eagles credit. They almost always pick the guys who've been playing well of late, like Davion Taylor. Don't hear from him much. He's actually playing now and making some plays. Let's get him out in front of the media. Good for the Eagles. They're smart enough to know who to handpick to hand to you guys to talk to. Anybody say anything or reveal anything that either surprised you or buoyed you in this game going in against the Broncos?
Well, I learned that Devontae Smith thinks that he can play corner against Darius Slay, but I wouldn't say there's a lot to glean there. But I would say, look, Devontae Smith is probably going to match up against Patrick Surtain. They had a lot of battles at Alabama in practice. I think that's going to be a highly competitive matchup, and it'll be interesting to see. I think, the defense typically doesn't give away any of its tricks or trades as much as you try to poke and prod them. So really, you're not going to get a ton of information there.
Mike, before I get into the Broncos game, and there's a lot to get into there, the Broncos are very banged up, I think, number one. So we'll get into that. But last night, Howie Roseman went out to Pittsburgh. Now, Howie hasn't traveled a ton since Carson Wentz, really, in 2016, since they made the decision. Obviously, they thought they were going to be able to get their franchise quarterback. They were doing all their due diligence. Now, part of that is the pandemic and nobody traveled. But nonetheless, I think it was notable that he was among, I think, 5 GMs out there to watch Kenny Pickett, Sam Howell. Big news, due diligence. Are people reading into that too much, or are the Eagles really, really diving down into the quarterbacks, do you think?
Well, I think it's a mix of all three, right? They control the board. They have 3 first-round picks. In a draft where the Giants have 2 first-round picks, the Jets have 2 first-round picks. So I think they're just trying to figure out – they're doing the right thing. They're trying to figure out, hey, first off, do we have options at quarterback? If Jalen Hurts doesn't turn things around or prove that he's the guy, We want the rest of the league to assume that we are interested in quarterbacks in the draft. And then on top of that, if you're Howie, you're saying to yourself, well, I think that I need to kind of be a little bit more hands-on. If I'm going to, make these picks, I need to be as informed as possible. And I think that's the right way to handle it. Look, I think Kenny Pickett is an intriguing guy because he played in the state of Pennsylvania in college. He's from New Jersey. There's a ton of local ties with him. He is an older college quarterback. He's a guy who is a late bloomer as well. So I think you want to take every opportunity possible to study this guy. Sam Howell, I don't think really is in the conversation personally, but I think when you look at a guy like Kenny Pickett, there's a lot of appeal there because of how efficient the offense is at Pittsburgh, how well he's playing, his size outside of his hand size, obviously. For those who don't know, he reportedly has the smallest hand size potentially in NFL history if he does go to the NFL.
It's going to be big combine news when the hand size
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the Devontae Smith spelt frame sort of myth. Not myth, but like a discussion. So, but the Eagles have shown that they'll overlook that discussion in the past. So I think that's notable. I don't think Kenny Pickett would be in the mix for a top 5 pick, but I do think he could be a top 15 guy. To me, he's Joe Flacco. So, and if you're comfortable with prime Joe Flacco, you're going to make a move.
Which nice tie out of you. Didn't Joe Flacco once play in Pittsburgh? No, it's before he went to Delaware.
Yeah, he went to Pitt.
And he's from New Jersey, so
same exact thing.
A lot of connections.
A lot of comparisons between those two guys. And oh, by the way, Mr. Small Hands Pickett in the rain last night started raining second half of the game when the ball is supposed to get slippery. Was able to keep his hands on it, march him down the field, and get the game-winning touchdown. So give him credit for that, even with his small hands. All right, let me take it back to the current Eagles quarterback, which is, of course, Jalen Hurts. Only 17 pass attempts last week. I was a little surprised at that by the end of the game. It was a game where both teams moved the ball. The Chargers move it the same way everybody moves against the Eagles. Slow, methodically down the field, ending up in a touchdown, which is not good. But it did keep the number of plays that the Eagles had the chance to run down a little bit. They ran it effectively again, which means they weren't going to put it up. Is the coach giving Jalen Hurts the chance? The last couple of weeks, you got one win and one game that you almost won, and that's got to be the main goal. Not trying to figure out if Jalen Hurts is the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles in 2023, but that's always an important understory. Is the coach doing enough to let Jalen Hurts prove that he is or isn't the guy the last couple of weeks?
I actually think he's helping him. I think you look at the way he's been able to sell play fakes. That's come based on the success in the run game. But I do think this team is beyond trying to figure out Jalen Hurts, right? I think at this point, it's like, hey, you've got to show some growth somewhere. It's not just about Jalen. The first 8 weeks were about Jalen for the most part. Now it's about figuring out if you've got a head coach who can be here long term, because really that should be the priority. I mean, the Eagles.
All right, well, hold on, and then let me stop you right there, Michael.
Okay,
yay or nay? If they figure out Jalen Hurts, if the Jalen Hurts question has been answered, is it a nay in your mind?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, look, he can change that nay into a yay, right? There's still time to do that. But as of right now, the skeptics are in the right now. I mean, there's a lot that concerns you: the accuracy, the inconsistency, the need to flee the pocket, even when it's clean. There's a lot there, but there's also a lot to like about Jalen. He's one of those guys where it's kind of in like the Andy Dalton sphere, where it's like, he's not going to lose you games, but he's also probably not going to consistently win you games either. And so I think they're trying to figure out, you know, his strengths are antithetical to what Nick Sirianni clearly wants to do. The first few games of the season, very shotgun heavy, very 11 personnel heavy, very pass heavy. The last 2 weeks, they've been extremely successful being ground and pound, under center, using a lot of play action, not a lot of RPOs. And so you're seeing them switch it up to accommodate Jalen Hurts. But I also think Jalen Hurts throwing 40 times a game is not how you win ball games. Jalen Hurts throwing 20 to 25 times a game, you can win games like that. The most impressive drive of the year, in my opinion, ended in a field goal. In the second quarter, they went 13 personnel on 13 consecutive plays, ran the ball 12 times, absolutely dominated the line of scrimmage. It only screwed up and didn't score when they went into a different personnel group for the final 2 plays of that drive and settled for a field goal. But frankly, Nick Sirianni's growth is the most impressive thing to come out of the last 2 weeks. He is adapting not only to his personnel, but the personnel of the opponent, which is what you should be doing. The first 6 weeks, it was about, this is what I want to do, right? It's like any cocky, look, it's like, you guys know, it's like a cocky beat writer coming into Philadelphia in week 2 of 2018, thinking that he can write about Corey Clement and the pride of New Jersey and getting tons of clicks out of it. That's what that's like, right? So, he came in thinking he knew everything, or maybe feeling like he knew everything, and he's learning on the job. Like, that's what this team is. They're all learning on the job. And I think Jonathan Gannon gets a ton of grief when you consider the personnel that he has. That said, it's been 8 weeks. Switch things up. It's not working. So I think there's blame all to go around with this 3-6 record. But I also think they're kind of at where a lot of us thought they would be. If they get going and things start turning around, if they beat Denver and then they beat New Orleans, then you have the Giants and then the Jets. They've never lost to the Jets. I mean, if they rattle off 4 wins there, they're 7-6 heading into the bye week, which is crazy. And then all they have to do is split the final 4 games, and they're 9-8, and that's a massive improvement. Maybe they don't make the playoffs, but they make me look good.
Yeah, and that's where I had him. You're right. We all had, look, the difficult part of the schedule was the early part, and now they're heading into the easier part, and we'll see if they can make that run. And that's where you see the improvement. One thing I do want to talk to you, Mike, about JG, because he's taken a lot of heat. We know that. There are talent deficiencies. But I've said this week, and I kind of want to run it past you, because if this is the week, I look at Denver, I look at Vic Fangio, that's a top 10 defense. And look at the depth chart, you don't even know who these guys are. Mm-hmm. Von Miller's gone, obviously. Bradley Chubb's been on IR the entire year. Alexander Johnson's their best linebacker. He's on IR. Josie Jewell's a starting linebacker. He's on IR. They still find a way to be a top 10 defense. So I'm a JG guy. I think he's got significant personnel issues in the back 7. But Vic Fangio has proven you can do some things without top-tier talent. That, to me, is the biggest indictment of Jonathan Gannon to this point.
Well, Vic Fangio has also been like a defensive coordinator for almost 20 years, right?
So,
no, I agree. Listen, I think they've put linebackers in really tough spots that they are not capable of being in. Jim Schwartz did the same thing. But you got to run your defense in a lot of ways. And so, look, I think the problem here is you have 2 press corners playing zone. They're playing very well in zone. But when the ball's coming out really quickly because they're playing off, that's not going to help. Against the Broncos, Teddy Bridgewater is extremely accurate in the short to intermediate range. He can slice and dice you. That's his game. Literally what's been beating the Eagles consistently, or I should say every other week, when they face a good quarterback, that's Teddy's game. He's not going to test you down in the field. There's absolutely no reason to play off. This week, they're going to have to play press. They're going to have to. And that's why, the defensive line has not played well. But you've got to give them a shot. You can't just play 10 yards off every single play. So I think, Gannon's at kind of like a crossroads here. I don't think he's about to lose his job or anything. I know there's been calls for that, but I think he needs to switch it up. It has been 9 weeks. Like, it's time. Like, you know what guys can do well and what guys can't. Now, the switch from Eric Wilson to TJ Edwards should have happened probably 5 weeks earlier. Eric Wilson's one of the worst linebackers I can remember being here. And look, he gave Nate Gary a run for his money.
Yeah.
No, for real. Like,
especially in run support.
Yeah, he was supposed to be this great pass defender. Where? What? Like, you know what I mean? So, but look, the safeties aren't playing well. Rodney McLeod seems to have lost a step a little bit. Anthony Harris has not played particularly well. Look, they need to give the defensive line some help and some time. And I think Teddy Bridgewater, if you hit him, it's going to be a long afternoon. It's going to be a really long afternoon for Denver. I
like the way you put it, Mike, in that Nick Sirianni, the first X amount of weeks of the season, was like, all right, we're going to do everything my way. And then he looked at it and said, maybe I should be doing what gives us the best chance to win, even if it's out of my comfort zone. Well, Guess what? The defensive coordinator needs to get out of his comfort zone this week. Mm-hmm. And he needs to give 2 top play. If you rank the Eagles players from top to bottom, overall talent, what they've achieved both this year and previously in their career, Darius Slay and Steven Nelson are 2 of their top 12 play. Their top dozen players, offense and defense combined. Let them make plays. If they're playmakers, let them make plays. Get them up on the line of scrimmage. Get them checking wide receivers. See if they can get a tip ball and make a play like that. Yeah, Teddy Bridgewater, even noodle-armed Teddy Bridgewater, may throw one over your head and give up a 60-yard touchdown. But if you get a pick along the way that sets you up for a touchdown, well, then that's a push. Give these guys a chance to make plays on the corner this week.
Look, I'll go as far as to say this. I think that Darius Slay is no less than a top 4 player on this team. Jason Kelsey's the best player on this team, in my opinion. Lane Johnson's number 2. You could argue Darius Slay is number 3. He is more important to this defense, in my opinion, than Fletcher Cox. Javon Hargrave is maybe the other guy you could put in there. But look, I think you're right. I think you just got. I mean, look, Jerry Jeudy is a yak machine. He's going to tear up zone coverage. Cortland Sutton, if you're not pressing that guy, he is going to get open pretty relentlessly. And then, like, you look at, the Tim Patrick is such a unique body type. He's built like a tight end, and so if you're putting him in the slot, that's going to be a really tough matchup for Avonte Maddox. So, I think you've got to be physical with this Broncos team. The weather's not going to be too bad. You know that you can match up talent for talent with this team because they're not very talented because they're banged up, as John said. Go at them. And here's the thing. 3 of their starting offensive linemen are injured. All the more reason to press and give the defensive line more time. So, that'd be my strategy. I'm with you guys on that.
All right, strategy on the offensive side, Mike. Did they make the shift? You talked they were heavy 11 personnel, a lot of RPOs over really the first 6 games. Then Las Vegas, I think 28th in the NFL in run defense. Detroit was 29th. Chargers dead last, 32. And they shipped to more traditional play action, under center, run the football. This week we have a banged up Denver defense, but that defense is number 6 against the run. So where do we land? Where do we land on the RPO heavy? We're running the football when we really throw it, Nick Sirianni, or are we going to try to line up Jordan Howard and bang into the 6th ranked run defense?
Well, I think you've got to set the tone, right? I think you've got to at least show that you're not afraid to run the football. So I think they'll start off in what they've been doing the past 2 weeks. And if it doesn't work, they'll have to adjust. They have to be able to sell play fakes. That's what Jalen Hurts has become very, very good at. And so if you're not running the ball, that takes away the illusion after a little while. And so I think what they'll try to do is they'll try to get the screen game going. I think they'll run at them pretty regularly in the opening script, and then if it doesn't work, they'll just adjust from there. But yeah, I do think you'll see a mix. Look, I think Nick Sirianni is maturing on the job. I think he's figuring out ways to adjust. And now that he's got Brian Johnson on the sideline, he can talk to Shane Steichen basically whenever he needs to, whenever they need to adjust stuff. And I think that happened starting in Detroit. And I think that's where you've seen kind of the maturation of the offense. So, I think they've got to test that run defense. I think they do. I'm a big believer that if there is a strength to a defense, you have to at least test it. And that's why I wasn't like over the moon upset or frustrated with the fact that they kept passing the ball against good passing defenses. You've got to test. So I think that's what they'll do early on. But I do think they have it in their back pocket to be able to handle a lot of passing plays.
Michael, the best laid plans of mice, men, and offensive and defensive coordinators can be laid to waste by how a game plays itself out. Last week was a great game to just be able to do what you wanted to do because neither team grabbed the big lead. It was 7-0, then it was 7-7, it was 10-7, then it was 10-10, it was 16-10, then it was 17-16. They just went back and forth. No team ever got a 2-touchdown lead, which gives you the chance to do what you want to do. Sometimes you're dictated to. You can lay out your game plan. You can have all the best intentions. You fall down by 2 touchdowns, you got to start to tweak. You got to start to adjust. You got to do things somewhat differently. Is this going to be one of those games? Will it be tightly contested the entire time? Can the Eagles get up by 2 touchdowns and then be able to dictate terms? Will they fall backwards by 2 touchdowns and then have to adjust on the fly because they're trying to play catch up? How is this game going to play? I see these as 2 very evenly matched teams. Luckily for the Eagles, the Broncos are a little beat up, which kind of moves the ball into the middle of 2 evenly matched teams because one right now is 5-4 and the other's 3-6. Is this the type of game that we can get a real good, true read on what the Eagles are, both from a player standpoint and a coaching standpoint?
Not really. I think this is like the Carolina Panthers game. I think this is going to be relatively close throughout. I think whoever wins is going to come down to the wire. I don't think this is an Eagles team that can blow out mediocre teams. They can blow out bad teams. They can't blow out mediocre teams. And this is the first true mediocre team that they've really played outside of Carolina. So I think that's kind of what the situation is. I actually have the Broncos winning 23-20. I think it's going to be low scoring. I do think the Eagles will run a lot in this game. I think they need to. I think Jordan Howard's a different type of running back than a lot of the offenses that Denver has faced this year. And so I think, look, I think they're going to have to get guys involved. They're going to have to get Gainwell involved. They're going to have to get Boston Scott involved. I think Devontae Smith's going to have a big game for them to beat this team. And I don't, that's easier said than done. And so, look, I'm not going to pick the Eagles until Jonathan Gannon adjusts his defense. That's a decision I've made moving forward. Until he shows some signs of adjustment the way that Nick Sirianni has, I'm not picking the Eagles.
Mike, you alluded to, I think, was the most interesting storyline of the week, and you wrote about it. People should check it out at NJ.com. The Eagles moving Brian Johnson from the coaching box down to the field a couple of weeks ago. Sort of have that direct connection with Jalen Hurts, kind of frees up Nick Sirianni, Shane Steichen to do more things with the offense. Nick, from a game management perspective as well, the overall, I think that's a really positive sign. I do for Nick Sirianni is moving forward as a head coach, a true head coach. He talks all the time about his name is on everything. So offense, defense, special teams. But we know the difference between CEO coaches and play callers. Play callers often get bogged down. They just, sort of defer to the defensive coordinator, special teams guy, what have you. You take it the same way? Really positive sign for the growth of a young head coach?
Absolutely. I think he's growing a lot, especially since Vegas. I think you're seeing this natural progression of a guy who's figuring it out. he goes very run dominant with the Lions. He doesn't put the game in Jalen Hurts' hands. Which, look, I think Jalen can be a starting quarterback in the league, but I don't think he's going to be anything more than a top 20 guy. This team is obsessed with finding that top 5, top 10 quarterback. And that's, fair or not, that's what it is. So they've got to find a way to win around him. And I think they have done a good job of that. Nick Sirianni has improved his relationship with Jalen Hurts. I could tell you for a fact that they get along very, very well behind the scenes. That is a very good relationship. And I think Nick Sirianni's, people compare Nick Sirianni to Ted Lasso, and beyond the joke, it's actually because they're both teachers at heart, right? They're both natural teachers. And I think he's teaching himself too, as he's going along in this season. I think moving Brian Johnson down makes this play calling system much more efficient. Look, people have been calling for Nick to have an offensive coordinator. Well, Shane Steichen is an offensive coordinator, and now being able to counsel with him between series and everything like that is very effective and can help him. Like they have a plethora of coaches who have experience as quarterback coaches and running back coaches and all this other stuff. You've got to free up your top assistant to be able to communicate with you at a moment's notice. And I think that's been the change that I've been impressed by. I think, Nick and Jalen Hurts having those behind the scenes meetings on Fridays are really important. I think Nick's figuring it out. And I think this is what Jeffrey Lurie saw in him. He saw the potential there. He just had to figure it out. And I think the last 2 weeks have been extremely encouraging from an objective standpoint, just on the job, watching the problem with Gus Bradley, right? I covered Gus Bradley, similar personality, similar teacher. He never really changed. He never really adapted until he was forced to. Nick's figuring this out in his rookie season, and I think that's really, encouraging.
All right, I want to play Ted Lasso / Nick Sirianni for a second here. And both of you guys tell me if I do the job as a motivational speaker, an analogy maker. They're going into Denver,
Jody,
right?
You got to believe. Believe.
Okay. You tell me if you believe in me after I make my shorty speech here. They're going into Denver. Although I've never been a skier my entire life, never strapped one of those pieces of wood onto my foot. Gone skiing a couple times. You can get lucky in the bar if you've got a good enough story. You don't actually have to go out.
You got to wear the lip tag.
I got the limp down. It's worked for me. I can tell you that. Here's what I'm giving my defensive coordinator if I'm the head coach of the Eagles as far as the separation, a motivational speech goes. Get the hell off the bunny hill. Go all Black Diamond on me this week. Let's take some friggin' chances. How about we get a little bit aggressive and play man on the outside? How about we bring an extra guy? We blitz a little bit. Get off the bunny hill, Jonathan Gannon, and take some chances this week against this Bronco offense. Ted Lasso, can I pull it off? What do you think?
I think Ted Lasso would have been like pizza, hot dogs, hot dogs.
Pizza,
yeah, but yeah, no, that was pretty good.
I like that.
Park reference. I like that rah material. But look,
that's Philadelphia. Blitz.
I'm a Philadelphian. You're damn straight. I want to see him blitz this week.
But I think Jody makes a really great point in that, look, you got to be aggressive. You can't. I think Nick Sirianni took it personally when he started to hear that his offense was soft. Because if you look at the last 2 weeks, I mean, they have not been soft. They've been dominant at the line of scrimmage. And honestly, I think the offensive linemen appreciate it. If it were me, I would be benching Jack Driscoll for Nate Herbig, but that's a whole nother story.
I'm with you.
I think they need to continue to make adjustments. This season is about, okay, cool. You want to win, but it's also about figuring out who your best personnel is. And I think they've done that at linebacker. I've been calling for TJ Edwards to start since training camp. He's played really, really well. So now you got to figure out on offense. Look, I know Jack Driscoll's a guy you invested a draft pick in, but to me, he's the new Big V. He can play basically all 5 positions, and he's a very good backup. Let him be your 6th man. But I think Nate Herbig's a guy who has a ton of potential at right guard. And until Brendan Brooks is back, that's what I would do, especially if you're going to run the ball the way they have. I mean, I think this Eagles team is set up. If they beat Denver, it changes a lot of things.
It does, and they're going to be in the football game. It's a winnable game, which by definition means it's a losable game as well. Last question from me. You know how I end this, Mike. We went through the stuff we got to talk about it, the minutia. Now we get to the important stuff. What have you liked? AEW versus WWE, both companies. What have you liked recently?
Well, I like that I haven't read in the last few days about AEW talking about WWE. You know what I mean? Like it's look, I haven't watched this week's shows. I'm kind of overwatching WWE. I'm like a closet AEW guy. I did see the CM Punk Eddie Kingston back and forth, and that was maybe one of the best promo segments I've seen in probably 5 years, like involving two different dudes. Incredibly well done. And then I read, I'm not an Eddie Kingston guy. I wasn't an Eddie Kingston guy at all. I found him fairly annoying, and I don't think he's very good in the ring. But I read his Players Only, or what's
Players
it called?
Tribune. Yeah,
Players Tribune. Players Only. Now, that would be a sight. I read his Players Tribune article, and if you haven't checked it out, it is very, very personal and very, very honest. And I want to buy him a toaster for his eventual wedding. Like, that's how much I like this guy now. I might buy a t-shirt. Really, really intriguing story as a person. You can tell he's like a genuine tough guy and not a guy playing tough. But no, I'm really intrigued by that feud. I can't watch Cody Rhodes anymore. I'm like, I don't know if they're doing it on purpose or whatever, but the guy is, Alex Wright playing Sting from 1992, and I can't do this. Intrigued by Hangman Adam Page, although I think it's very, very weird to be called Hangman Adam Page in this time period.
It is a little bit strange. I agree with you. They make some unforced errors. I would describe it.
I would have switched that up and just like Jungle Boy. Jack Perry is an amazing wrestling name. Yeah. And they just continue to call him Jungle Boy. The kids,
not to mention you don't take advantage of who his father was by calling him Jungle Boy.
I agree. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you guys saw this, but You Can't Kill David Arquette, the documentary. I watched it on the plane going to Vegas, and I got to tell you, it's a great documentary. And you see his relationship. He was really close with Jack's dad. And when David Arquette nearly died, Jack actually drove him to the hospital. So very interesting. You see him train. You see him train in Mexico. It's pretty cool if you're into that sort of thing.
Couple AEW thoughts quickly. I'll get mine in.
Go for it.
They can't change Jungle Boy's name because the song is just too over. The friggin' crowds love that. That song plays, and
he can be Jungle Boy Jack Perry. Just don't call him Jungle Boy. You know what I mean?
Okay, so add his name and you'd be okay with it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, they
it's
can't
about
get
presentation.
Right. Yeah. They can't get rid of Jungle Boy if you're
and the pop. It's not about the pop. I mean, music is great, sing-alongs are great, but people get overwhelmed by the pop. It's about selling the wrestler. It's about long-term stories. It's about, it's not about that.
The pop sometimes sells the merchandise, and don't kid yourself. That's always a consideration when they're making these decisions. And the other unforced error, I'm scared. I think they're going to take my gal, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. I think they're going to take the title from her this week.
Well, they have to eventually, but
not yet. Not yet. She's too good. She's too hot.
Yeah,
do not do it yet this week.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. I would wait till the TBS title is like figured out, and then you immediately have her like go into that, because I want to see her versus Jade, whatever her name is, the undefeated
Cargill.
Yeah. That's money right there. You do it so that maybe Cargill loses on like a fluke in the TBS tournament, and then you can carefully book her against Britt, and then you take the title off of Britt, and then she immediately feuds for the TBS title.
Our buddy Tony Khan hopefully will not be listening, Mike, but CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, Adam Cole, already ordinary. They didn't take advantage.
I think Adam Cole has been. I was at Adam Cole's first match for AEW.
Yeah.
He's a mid-carder. Like, that's what he is. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if the Elite was the NWO, he's probably 6. You know what I mean? Like, he's
NWO Red and what was it?
Wolfpack.
I like the Wolfpack.
You want to talk about a pop? They had the best theme music of the entire 90s. So
that's true. True.
But what I will say is this: you don't want to get into Rick Rude territory with a theme song, right? Where Glorious was like the biggest hit.
Bobby Roode, yeah,
Bobby
that
Roode
was
hit.
Tremendous. That song,
incredible entrance.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Nothing else after that.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Boring. I mean, he's a good hand, but it's you know what I mean.
No, you're right. That entrance was unbelievable. The full NXT one, not when it got to WWE.
And I think that changed the way NXT presented guys, right? Because they realized that was. We got to talk about this. So I'm a huge NXT guy. NXT 2.0 is
it's awful.
It's terrible. Horrific. It's awful.
Vince McMahon should be indicted for murder.
Flashy colors. That's what we need for wrestling. Psychedelic color. What the hell were they thinking?
The most. Look. Okay, cool. Couldn't beat AEW. You're competing with Chris Jericho and international superstars.
Yeah.
I mean, look.
It was such a great product, and now we got the mob guy. It's like back to when they had the goon and
they're down to like. They're down to like AWA in the 80s, but like in 2021, it's like
they still have a lot of really good wrestlers, really good talent. But yeah, the presentation is just terrible. But I will say Roman Reigns remains the best thing in professional wrestling, and nothing else is close.
But not enough to make me watch a show when you're booking Jeff Hardy to just do talking segments. And
you love Jeff Hardy.
That's my guy. Yeah. That's my guy. Put him in a serious feud. I'll watch SmackDown.
All right.
Like, don't disrespect. Look, I've been watching that guy since 1999.
Well, it's time though. It's time. It's like
fine. Then free him. Let him go to AEW. Let him go. I'm praying for the day that he goes to AEW. Do you know how big? That's the thing. I was talking to somebody about this who doesn't like Jeff, and if Jeff went to AEW, it would be almost as big as CM Punk going to AEW.
See, I don't agree with that.
Well, here's why.
They already have Jeff Hardy at 20 years old in Darby Allin.
Oh my God, I hate that comparison. I hate that comparison.
I don't like Darby Allin, but he's trying to do. I should say he's a poor man's Jeff Hardy. A broke man's Jeff Hardy.
Listen, here's the thing. Jeff Hardy is who everybody in the indies basically based their stuff on for like 15 years.
Yeah.
Right? The reason why the Young Bucks are successful is they literally stole everything.
By the way, they're my Cody Rhodes. I'm done with them.
Yeah. I like them as heels. I like how over the top they are. Yeah. They remind me of like Scott Hall towards the end of WCW.
Yeah.
But my thing is like Jeff is like, could you imagine a Jeff CM Punk feud now? Like a sober Jeff Hardy versus CM Punk. Or what about you could sell me as Sting and Jeff? Like they had the worst pay-per-view match in the history of professional wrestling outside of Starrcade 96.
Mike, I'm the old guy, and you can't turn the page. Sting is 66 years old, whatever the heck.
He's taking great bumps, man.
Yeah, not bad for an old man. He's still looking
the guy's got spinal stenosis. Let him go. I shouldn't even be in the ring.
Well, but we got to wrap this up, boys. The show is almost.
I'm talking.
And I got to come back and make a pick segment on the Eagles. We got to
swing
it back into football somehow. Do me a favor. call Kaye after the show and talk wrestling
right.
with him for another half hour.
We got to get our.
When do we have to be at the facility? I'm trying to figure this out. I'm looking at my phone while I'm talking to you.
Well,
guys.
yeah, practice is early if you want to. I'm only going for Nick, so yeah, you better run.
All right, go to work,
all
Michael
right,
Kaye.
I'll see you guys
Thank you
later.
very much. 23-20 Broncos for Kaye. We'll come back, and McMullen and McDonald will get on the record, make picks for the Eagles Broncos coming up here on Birds 365.